Welcome to OSH After the Bell podcast, where we bring you a fun and informative conversation about everything outside school hours care and give a voice to our fellow educators. So buckle up.
Hi everyone, welcome to OSH After the Bell podcast. I'm joined with my co-host Barbi from Firefly HR, and today we have our special guest, Kristen McPhail from Pachamama. I hope I said it right.
You did.
Thank you very much, Kristen, for coming and joining us in OSH After the Bell podcast, and it's our pleasure having you here. I would hand on to Barbi because Barbi have known Kristen for a while. Barbi, please help me introduce the guest today.
So I haven't known Kristen for a while, but I've been a long time, I say stalker, but I want to say follower of what they do over at Pachamama, early education and childcare. Although they have an early learning service, they also have an out of school hours care. So that's also why I've been a long time follower, admirer of everything they do. And I thought it would be a good idea to get Kristen on because I think everything they do is so inspiring. It would be a good chance to hear how they do it, even the why behind sometimes how they get to those ideas, and share that with other educators in our space to go give motivation and see what we can do in our centres too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that introduction. It's hard living up to that. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast and to share what we do. And if we can inspire others to think differently, think outside of the square, get some new ideas for the whole purpose of improving children's lives, then, then the time has been very well spent. So thank you very much, Barbi and Sarah.
It's our pleasure, honestly. And thank you, Barbi, for introducing, because Kristen, as you said, inspiring other people. We would love to know what is Pachamama? I mean, there's lots of people who already know this, but we would love to know from you as to what inspired you to start a service like this, and what does it entail?
Well, I guess a little bit of background about Pachamama. It's an 8-year-old service. It was started by myself and my co-founder, and a little center that we bought in Lesmurdy in the Perth Hills of Western Australia. The service was quite run down, and it had about 20 children in attendance. It was licensed for 47 at the time. And what we did is we basically injected nature. Every single way that we could possibly do, we injected nature into the environment. And we have grown rapidly over the last 8 years to now have about 200 children in attendance every day. And that's, long day care from 6 weeks to school age, and then from before school care, after school care, vacation care. So we have about 200 children in attendance a day, and it's going very, very well.
I was also looking at that you have early education center as well as OSH service. So is that are these two sides together, or?
Yeah, we do. So technically, although we operate as one big Pachamama group, we technically have two services. And the reason we have two services is because there's a main road in between our 3 properties. So the long day care is on one side of the road, and what's known as the Pachamama Activity Center is on the other side of the road. But we're quite different in that we actually operate as one big group. We have one center manager for consistency across all properties. We have each property have an operations manager, and then we have room managers. So we do, and then I'm the company director overseeing everything and involved in all levels. So technically 2 centers, 3 properties, 6,000 square meters, huge area for the children.
6,000 square meter.
6,000 square meters, yes. And look at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, is that what assisted or inspired you to inject nature, as we said?
Look, I grew up in Minnesota, in America. You can probably tell by my remnant accent. And we grew up in the nature there. It's very, very cold in the winters, and it's known as the land of 10,000 lakes. And we did outside play. Whenever I was I'm bored. My mom would say, well, go out and play, So we'd get our play gear on and come winter, spring, summer, sunshine, snow. So that's what I was used to. And I really saw that children are doing less and less and less and less of that. And I think it centers on the environments that we offer the children and the security that we're trying to continually keep them away from risk. And we have a way at Pachamama of them going outside, and risk isn't something that we try to protect them from. Risk we view as something that we try to help them mitigate. We teach them to mitigate risk rather than mitigating that for them. And that's one of the premises upon which we're built and our outdoor play is built on. We have ponds, we have streams, we have nature play facilities that, the rungs are uneven and they're made of bush poles. So they really need to think about walking on them and finding their way up to them. So that's one of the things that we do, and the children respond so well to being outside. And that's what children need today, I believe.
Your outside environment too is quite unique. I don't think I've seen a service like it. I'm not sure if you've been able to see it yet, Sarah. I guess, again, this is one reason why I was a long-time follower of what you had in your play space. I can't remember what animal it is, but you have a chain animal. So in your yard, what is it, a horse, or am I off? Well, I'm going off memory.
No, good memory. We have a number of, one of the things that we do. So our philosophy in a short sentence is we're a home away from home, steeped in nature, creativity, and diversity. So anything that we do, we compare it to our theme of home away from home, steeped in nature, creativity, and diversity. So part of our creativity in our environment is we have probably one of the largest kind of outdoor displays of art in the area. And they are huge balls that have been created from old hooks, commercial hooks that have been welded together. We have an artist who makes all this amazing sculptures. So we have life-size elephant. We have a life-size Clydesdale horse. We have huge chain trees that they climb up on, but the horse is made out of chains, actually. Okay. That's where you got that. We have, emus, we have bush trees, we have and it inspires the children to say, hey, you can make things out of other things. And it gets their creativity going. So a lot of the play equipment that we actually have are life-size sculptures. They're artworks that they climb on, as opposed to plastic, fantastic things that are made for the children to play on, that are all conformed to Australian standards.
Right. And we call it the affordance, where a chair could be used for anything. The chair could be, you can sit on a chair, or you can use that as a weapon, or you can put 5 chairs together and have a tunnel. So what can a chair afford you? It can afford you several things. And then looking at how you have created your environment, it's not that, although it is for the children, you have just created it, and then children find a way of using it and forget about children for a second. I was thinking, do you open that for weekends for adults to come in and have some fun? Because I was thinking, maybe the way you're describing, maybe next time I'm there, maybe I can have a weekend away from that.
It's funny you should say that, Sarah, because, we do obviously a lot of parent tours. We would have, 1 or 2 parent tours every single day. And one of the most common things that we hear is that parents say, oh, wow, wish I could live here. This is beautiful. I wish I could live here. Or they say, look, if your childcare doesn't work out, you can turn it into a restaurant, and so all the deals, things that we could do if we lost 200 children, but a day. But yeah, it really is it's a home away from home environment. And we really try to steep it in nature. And we have items from all around the world, rugs from Pakistan and antiquities from Indian temples. And you might hear a clock happening that's from Germany, handmade from Germany. So these are all the things that we have. And we have, the children in our out of school hours care, they use real glassware because we want to teach them how to take care of real glassware. We don't just give them plastic to eat with so they can throw around. These are precious things, and they learn how to take care and learn how to feed themselves on it. We have a Murano glass sculpture, nice chandelier above their eating area. So we teach them about these precious things and where they come from.
And so I know there's a lot of people listening that probably would shudder to think, oh my gosh, having that many out of school hours care children using glassware and everything, but you have quite a few. You have 81, so it's not a small number. How do you find they go with using this? So do they use crockery as well? Like everything's...
Yep. So what we do with the children, again, our main focus, I suppose, with teaching the children is we're trying to teach them life skills. So our Pachamama Activity Center, which is where our out of school hours care is located, we teach them life skills, and that involves feeding themselves. It involves serving themselves. So we'll put all the food out. Sometimes they'll even help us prepare it. They'll help us carry it from the kitchen to their eating area. And they literally go through and they will scoop it out themselves, and they learn about portions. We'll be there, and if we see the food, somebody taking a lot, we'll have a chat about portions, or make sure that little Johnny at the end there will have enough. And sometimes they'll actually, and they'll put some on a plate and they'll give it to little Johnny. So it teaches them so many more things than just being, hey, we're going to give you food. You're going to sit here. You're going to eat it. You're going to eat what you get. It teaches them all about life skills, and eating in a home environment, which is, some children actually don't really get that. So they're learning table manners, they're learning how to communicate at tables. So that's what we're all about, teaching them life skills.
And you mentioned that you have 200 kids, and when I was reading about the things which Pachamama Activity Center does, you highlighted the physical environment, and wonder why out of this 7 quality areas. And more I learn about this, I'm just trying to imagine being there. So I understand that the children who come from different schools nearby.
Yeah. So our children come from 8 different schools. So we have 5 different buses, and it's like a military operation, actually. It's quite interesting just to watch them all go out and pick the children up over 8 different schools. So it ends up being a hub from the community, which is another thing that I really wanted to create for the children, a place that they want to come to. They want to come and be here after school with their friends from other schools that they don't get to see every day. And so when they create this network of friends, when they actually go to high school, they'll have known a lot of children in the high school, which normally they wouldn't do. So that's another benefit that we have for going to Pachamama. And it's interesting hearing the kids really wanting to come here. There was a parent here the other day that, they didn't need it to care for their children. They wanted to do it because their child wanted to come to Pachamama. So they're coming here 2 days a week, not for care, literally to socialize with the other children and to play outside and to learn life skills. But they were so excited when their mom says, hey, we're going to let you go to Pachamama. But the physical environment, what you mentioned about the quality area 3 for the physical environment, I kind of look at it like, this physical environment, it's like our sphere. And everything, all the other quality areas that are on the outside of that sphere really are impacted deeply by our physical environment. We consider that to be absolutely fundamental to what we do. If you look at, for instance, relationships with children, the children come here, and because it's a home away from home, very relaxed and nature-based, it has a beautiful feeling about it, almost kind of mystical and spiritual, people say. They feel more confident, they feel more relaxed, and that deeply impacts their relationship with other children. It deeply impacts, because it's a beautiful environment to work in, the educators are more relaxed. They want to stay here longer term. They don't want to go moving to another center. because it's a beautiful place to be. So you have longevity of staff. That then impacts deeply the longevity of the relationships we have with children from the moment they come here. So a lot of the kids actually are here for 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
Too, I've noticed with some things, again, from my long time following of what you do, say there was staff, what did I call it? Like long service gifts you had planned into your staffing. I think it was 3 and 7 years. You might have more. It was just what I saw was a picture of staff that had been with your service for 3 years and 7 years received certain gifts.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So these are the things that we try to do. You know, we recognize that longevity of staff is very, very important. Not only does it influence the relationship with the children and the relationship with each other, it also influences our ability to do more and more things, because when the staff are really familiar with our policies and procedures, they're able, it gets more and more deeply embedded, and we're able to move to a different level of things that we offer. So we are very focused on staff longevity and recognizing the staff longevity. So one of the things that we've done, we have different color shirts for staff. So when they achieve their 2 years here, they get I believe it's a blue shirt. We normally have green shirts. They get a blue shirt. So they get different shirts at 2 years, 5 years, and 7 years. And then when they get to 3 years, they get a beautiful, actually, peridot necklace that signifies our nature. A 2-carat peridot and sterling silver necklace. And then at, I believe it's 8 years, they actually get some diamond earrings that we give them to really recognize, hey,
I want to work. I'm coming to work over there. If I can start from the 8th year, that would be good. I'm happy to work backwards. It was, sorry if I interrupted you, but I just couldn't go past the 8-year mark. Is there any other thing which happens after 10 years, maybe like a goal change?
Well, we're only 8 years old, so I can't really say that anybody's gotten a 10-year one yet, because it kind of wouldn't make sense.
Of course. Maybe we have a couple of years to think about what we can do. Maybe like take them to like an overseas trip, given that, we may not at the moment, but hey, who knows? Going back to the physical environment, you mentioned that physical environment is a bigger umbrella. Of course, that's not what you said, but you're talking about other things, but it actually impacts everything else. And for those who may be grappling with the thought, if we flip that conversation, and then I have had the privilege of having visited several services through the consultancy, that I get to see how physical environment plays a role. So flipping that conversation would be, what if you didn't have any of that? And how does that impact children? So I was just at a school the other day, and I had a look at, so they had divided the group into the whole larger group into 3 smaller groups. And I'm talking about this 5, 6, and 7, 4, 5, and 6s. The room they had was the only room which didn't have carpets, and every other room had carpets on. This was the smallest of the all, and it had the most number of tables. So the free space while the children came. Now, of course, they took the feedback on board and they're going to do something about it, but nothing is wrong with the environment. But when you see how the children were not able to move freely, and in a room which has the least amount of carpet, this sound goes up. It looks like noisy and chaotic, but it's not. Look, it is, but it could also be like moving a couple of things away and letting them sit on the floor, but the carpets would help. Otherwise, it looked like as if there was the tables and the environment gave you a structure such that you couldn't have moved out of that structure.
Yeah.
And if you had to move, and every movement looked rapid, because it went from, when someone went from A to Z, it looked rapid, but it wasn't rapid. It was because he or she had to navigate through it. And kids who are not going to navigate, they're going to jump. All right. So,
yes.
So that's what I would do if I want to go from here to there. I'm not going from left to right. I'm just going to jump on the chair if I can. Yeah. So flipping that conversation, like when I see the other extreme, and I'm not even saying the extreme, but when we see how the environment plays a role, and if somebody can't picture that, perhaps they can picture something which is already happening at their service, or not happening at their surface, and how the environment moving some chairs and tables can actually create that movement. And as you said, more movement, more creativity, perhaps children behavior is impacted. And I'm not talking about undesirable or desirable behavior here, but I'm just saying if their focus is on jumping chairs, then of course their focus is not on creativity and perhaps all the beautiful things which can happen.
Yeah, and look, we found that I think it was, I have a little anecdote that we realized it from an experiment that we did. I was a number of years ago, it was being reported back to me that the behavior in our kindy room was not as we would have preferred. And so, we hadn't actually fixed that room up. That was kind of almost the last room that we hadn't done. And so over a weekend, we went in and did a blitz. We put in more authentic rugs. We painted it a more calm color. We put in huge timber slab, one very large timber slab table that we made ourselves. So all the children could sit at one table. We took away the little tables that were around the place. We put in lighting that was much more natural as opposed to the fluorescent lightings. We took all of the fluorescent lightings out. We put in fans, 3 wooden fans to actually circulate the air more naturally so we could have all the windows open and turn the air conditioner off. And we put in large Indian storage cupboards, very authentic carved teak cupboards. Those were some of the things that we did. And I'll tell you, the behavior overnight changed.
Is it just the stimulus? It's not bright, it's not colorful, it's calming.
It's very calming. It's a home away from home, much more calming. And then they were taught to be very respectful of their environment. So they didn't go chair hopping. They didn't have those things to do. They had very long benches, and it was much easier to teach manners and much easier to teach respect. The last thing that we just did with that environment is we had some old ramps that were that needed removing, and that's their outdoor play area. So we've just literally basically opened it all up, took all the ramps away, put wood chips down, replaced the decks, and it's a much more beautiful open area. I just posted a photo on Facebook, and the indoor-outdoor play without the clutter is, I love just sitting there and watching the children play now, because they're so much more industrious. They're so much more self-contained. There's so much, you don't really have the behavioral problems that we were finding when the environment was much different. So there's a lot to be learned by really analyzing your environment and saying, how can I improve the environment to then be the first step of changing the children's behavior?
So I'm looking at that environment right now, and for me, looking at it, it just looks like a playground, like wood chips, tree, like a natural environment playground, I guess is what I'm looking at. Nothing fancy, nothing over the top. It's almost like, have you taken stuff away? Like less is almost more. I'm not sure if that's what you've done, but that's what I can say.
No, we did. There were some very large ramps there for disabled access. So what we did is we removed those, and we actually put in an elevator on the other side of the building. So that takes much less space. Yes, it was an expensive exercise, but it freed up the space for the children to get away from all the ramps and actually to have a space where they could run around. We then took the deck that we had, and we actually put slides going off of the deck and put a fireman's pole going off of the deck. So we turned what was a functional, basically a thoroughfare, into a functional play area.
Yeah.
We opened up the space, we removed bricks.
And as you said, Barbi, how you mentioned earlier about you just took things out, and Kristen said things about decluttering, and it just creates more space for the kids to do whatever they want to do. And when you were explaining about the things you've changed, and I was thinking, as a child, I would start behaving too. When I see so many beautiful things around me, I'm like, I don't want to destroy that. Now, I mean, I can destroy a plastic cup perhaps, but I don't want to destroy that. That sounds too good. But it's just that when I was at this particular service, I just said that there has to be some, and you know, there's a photography term. And look, I'm not a photographer, so those who are listening, and if you're a photographer, sorry for offending you in advance. You know, we say negative space or something like that. Like a negative space has a value in photography, like it has its own negative space and things like that. That's all I know, and I'm not gonna go any further than that. Okay, so if I say any further on that, you know how silly I am in terms of photography. So when I was with this school, that phenomena crossed my mind, and I thought there's so much of man-made structure. Like everything is man-made nowadays, but there's so much of structure that from a child's perspective, and going back to affordance, and I would love to have Jenny here, Jenny Cartmel, the one who My Time, My Place. She and I were talking about this affordance theory back in India when we started this OSH, outside school I care, through We Belong, and we didn't have a lot there. It was just an open space, and we would say they don't have a lot, but how children would see it is, oh, there's so much to do now. There's so much space to do so many things. So nothing creates a lot of things. We don't have to necessarily put things in a way that is concreted, structured, because then people have to do things around it. And again, the way a particular material affords several things. And you mentioned something that the children behavior overnight shifted. And you used the word industrious and self-run, like they started doing things on their own. Is that what you would say? That given that there was space and things at their disposal, that they could start doing things? Is that what happened?
Yeah, so I look at the children now after we've, rejigged their environment and made it much more open and made it much more authentic. Yeah. And really gave them, created like a home away from home. They're more industrious with respect to what they do. For instance, like, we've got two very large robot sculptures there. Now, it was my intention, it was our intention when we put these robot sculptures, and these are created, they're like 2 meters high, and they're created by welding old wrenches and industrious things together. Well, I thought it was just going to be a sculpture to the kids. Well, no, they actually climb on it. That was not my original intention, but they're up there climbing on it. And, and their footholds, they're finding footholds to stick their feet in. And they're being so careful and like, where can I put my foot in? And where can I put my foot in? Now, this was not built for a climbing apparatus. It was not built to, hey, we'll have this a foothold and this a foothold. But the mere fact that they are learning how to do that is teaching them these life skills, that not everything in life is just going to be laid out to you based on the Australian standards of here's the step and here's the step and here's the step and hold here and hold here. And so they become more industrious in their learning. Yeah,
that's, and you also mentioned, and I've heard this a few times now, home away from home, and it looks like your own childhood is manifested here, like it's like funny. Minnesota and Australia, maybe it's like your own childhood, your own home is I mean, would you say that your own, and you have already mentioned this, but that is something which is still in the back of your mind, creating the childhood you had, or at least offering to some capacity the childhood you have had, and the benefits you got from it for the children. And
that's very true. I actually even have some of our, family heirlooms here. I have my grandfather's rug that was in his study, and he got it in Morocco. And I have, the childhood rug also from Morocco that I had in my bedroom when I was 5 years old. So there's a number of things around here that actually come from my childhood. But I'm really trying to create a space where people or the children, as well as the staff, value other cultures. Yeah. Right. We'll have Kenyan beads and Kenyan wear, and we'll have Aboriginal art, and we'll have, cuckoo clocks from Europe here. will have, Murano chandeliers and things that are kind of extraordinary. And it gets the children to think, wow, that's really quite lovely, and things to be appreciated. But when they see it later on in their life, it'll trigger something. It'll go, I remember that.
Yeah.
I didn't know where it came from when I was little, but now I know where it came from. And it will expand their mind to want to learn more about other cultures and have that connection with their childhood that's more deep psychologically in their mind.
Please,
sorry,
Barbara.
So another thing that I had been admiring for a while is, say, your connection with other cultures. You have a connection with the Kenyan exchange program?
Yes.
As well? I'll let you take that one.
You want me to tell you about it? Yeah, so again, it's part of, everything we do. We're a home away from home, steeped in nature, creativity, and diversity. So part of our diversity not only is actively engaging educators of diverse cultures, we also bring in cultures as well. And my family personally has been deeply connected with a Maasai community in Kenya for the last 10 years, educating people there and sending them to university. We have a program where we're also sending children to boarding school there and giving them education. So part of that is that the Maasai have actually come here and been amongst our children for a month at a time. They wear what they wear every day there. They wear their shukas, which a shuka is effectively a blanket, and tie it up. And they wear their Michelin tire shoes. And that's what they wear the whole entire time that they're here. They teach the children how to throw spears. Now that was...
not at each other, but how to throw spears.
I kind of had to hold my breath and go, how's the spear throwing going to go? But they just loved it. They wanted to, they got all in a line and, and they practiced throwing spears, and they learn about the culture. They learn about, and I'll give you an anecdote of it. We have a young girl here who's a school-age child, and she's from Africa. Clearly from Africa, and her mother is from Africa, and she's going to a school where a lot of her friends are Chinese. And according to her mother, she came home one day and she said, "Oh, Mom, am I Chinese too?" And her mom's like, "No, dear," and was struggling how to explain, where's she from? And this happened like a couple weeks before we brought our Kenyan Maasai here. And I'll tell you, by the end of the month of our Kenyan Maasai African being here, she knew she was African, and she was so proud to be African. And the mother's like, "Oh, this has been a beautiful experience." So those are the little things that can happen that you don't plan on happening when you bring culture in.
Yeah. So it's like if you have a lot of African people at your service, do the spear throwing. I mean, no, but that's amazing. The Kenyan story you said. Now, given the COVID-19 is going on at the moment, you would have issues in bringing them here. So is this something an ongoing thing, which you are something which they would come almost perhaps every year as a
Yeah, before COVID, actually they came. I've had two Maasai. Yeah, my cuckoo clock. Sorry about that. We've had two Maasai coming here, basically over a 3-year period. And not only that, but we also took our senior management over to their village in Kenya and showed them. And we, lived in a manyatta, which is basically, a mud hut. And did the safaris there. So it's exchanging that culture, so that when the Maasai come here, they actually have familiar faces that they know, and we're able to really relate to their environment and help them teach it to the children or have the children learn. So yes, when COVID releases us from our tied down lives, that will be something that we do again. Yeah.
You also mentioned that senior management went to Kenya, had a look at their own life. That's amazing, living in the phenomenon, learning their own stories from their own perspective. But immersing yourself in their environment. You mentioned that you have 50 diverse staff from different multicultural, multi-religious, etc. Yeah,
we do.
Yeah. So how do you, given that you have so many children, so many staff members, different culture, what is working for you? What give? I know there must be several challenges as well, but there's something working for you here. So what's happening? Is the environment again playing a role in that, do you reckon?
Environment. Look, everything to us is environment. We, again, over our 6,000 square meters, we've got a lot of just beautiful areas that our staff can go to chill out on their breaks. I see staff all the time just sitting on a nice nature bench under a tree and gathering their own time in morning teas or lunches, whereas most centers, they kind of, center in the staff room. But they can go in the reading room when children aren't here, they're at school, and they can sit on a nice leather Chesterfield couch and have some alone time to do their own thing. They can go in our staff room. We've got 3 different staff rooms. They can watch TV. They can go in any little area or nook near our ponds or streams. So, our environment is just key to everything that we do with Pachamama.
It's funny because, if I was your staff, you would see me on days I'm not rostered, having my lunch there. I'm like, hey, what are you doing here, sir? I'm like, I'm just having my lunch. Oh, you're not even rostered. I'm volunteering to supervise today. For those who are listening to this, and in many schools, as you would know, that they do not have that luxury of space or resources or even funding. Now, some of them may sit and say, oh, if I had this, I would have done it too. But I don't think it's that easy. I don't think that it's not just that the environment just happened. What I'm hearing and what I really invite people to consider, for those who do not have any of this and they say, oh, well, if I had that, my children would be fine too. There's so many things we are not saying in this conversation and has happened in the background. To think that when you're talking about the, I may be wrong in quoting this, but you're talking about the kindy room where the behavior changed overnight. Was it the kindy room? Or, the initiative you took, and that's an attitude thing. That's not environment thing. That's an attitude thing. So you looked at the environment and you thought, you know what, something's going on. Let me change something. And you brought a lot of transformation into it. You, as Barbi pointed out, you also took away a lot of stimulus and brought a kind of nature into it. And you talked about how I wrote things down, but it's like 4 pages long. So I don't know where I wrote things down. And I can't understand my own handwriting. So so now that is an attitude difference. So those who do not have money, let's say, those who do not have space, attitude is priceless though. Well, you can still think and ask and say, hey, what can I do in my environment with the budget I've got and with the space I have? Sorry, Barbi, you're saying something?
Well, it's a reflection on it as well. Instead of going, oh, that's just kindy behavior. That's what we put up with almost. Because some people just think that. I've been guilty of that as well. Like especially at our center, it was always year 1 boys because they got that little bit more confident. And we were like, oh, that's just year 1 boys. It's like, oh, no, actually, we can actually reflect on this, see how we can help improve it for them, give them a better experience as well.
Yeah. And this is what I'm hearing, because, we could give money to someone, we could give all the resources to someone, and the challenges will still be the same challenges. An attitude difference, which Kristen has been telling us, and telling us how there is a philosophy which is driving this. And
that's what I noticed.
And it's consistent, like from the very first to now, although many times we sit here and we talk about challenges, and today we are talking about literally Narnia. Okay, this is literally Narnia. So, and all I hear is, this is not just happened. This was planned. Everything is planned. Nothing is accident here. Yes, of course, children started climbing on things when it was meant to be sculpture. But other than that, everything was planned. Everything was thought. It was thought about and then and did it. Now, you also mentioned something about community involvement. Now that is also an attitude thing, because to involve community, yes, sometimes it takes money, sometimes it just doesn't. But you wrote something about aged person's home. Is that you have?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different programs we have. I mean, I suppose getting back to what you said, I really like how you say it's an attitude thing, and I'd like to comment on that.
Sure, please.
Because you know, yes, it's taken a lot of funds to do it to the grand scale that we've done it. And that's a very, very unique thing. But you can achieve an enormous amount simply with hard work. Okay, that's free. Time is free. And, you know, we have dedicated, and I want to say 24/7 for 8 years of a lot of hard work. There's resources you can get so cost effectively on Gumtree, on Facebook Marketplace for next to nothing.
Yeah.
It takes time to search it up. It takes thought. How do I want to do this better? It's not going to the store and buying a $7,000 Chesterfield couch. It's hunting it down on Facebook and paying $300 for it. And it looks the same, right? So there's a lot of things that you can do, but it takes time and grunt work and getting out there, you know, and I implore owners to really consider how they're using their time to better their environment and reflecting on how can we make it better for a purpose and dedicating their hours to doing it. With respect to a lot of the little, you know, smaller programs that we have, we involve the children in the community a lot. So we have a partnership with a retirement village nearby, and they come in and again, COVID has, you know, put a lot of this on hold, but we've just re-engaged with them wanting to reestablish it. But, you know, the older people will come in and to our activity center with the OSH care kids on vacation care, and they'll get their nails painted, you know. You know how our kids always like to paint our nails, whether you're male or female, and well, the same thing with the old people. And they're sitting there and the kids are painting their nails, and it's just that beautiful engagement. The older people love it, the younger people love it, and we kind of just sit back going, isn't it wonderful connecting everybody? You know, just that beautiful feeling that you get. We bring the children to the libraries and teach them how to use the libraries. One of the things that we do, a little program that we have between our long daycare and our activity center, OSH Care, is, again, it's for the kindy kids, and it's a transition program. So we have about 25 kindy kids. And because some of them take naps and some of them don't, the older kids generally disrupt the younger kindy kids who want to take naps. So we actually have said, look, we send them on our bus. We bring our bus over there. We pick the older ones up, or those who are nominated to come over to our activity center and play over here outside for an hour. So it's like a transition into getting on the bus, learning how to ride a bus, being a big kid, being in the big kids area for lunchtime. And that privilege of doing that, again, it's it helps heighten their behavioral responses.
Exactly. This is the next. Sorry, Barbi, you were saying something?
Oh, I don't know if you know, so with the connection with aged care, so intergenerational care, Dr. Cartmell's actually working quite a bit on
perhaps
that.
Perhaps this is the second time we have mentioned Jenny. Maybe Jenny.
Yes.
One of the things you had mentioned, and this is like, this has happened a couple of times now, the multi-age exclusive gathering is only exclusive to Artside School of Care. And again, for those who do not do this, I understand why. Actually, we had a session, episode 17 was about how they keep children of different age groups separated. That's fine, that works for them, that's what's happening. I have been a big advocate of mixing as many as possible. Coming from India, we didn't have a choice of choosing what age group to play. You come outside your house and woof, there are people from different age group, and you just deal with it. I had to compete against my friend's older brother in cricket. I just had to do it because we had a small area, everybody played together. So, and I think it made it was beneficial as well as sometimes not that good. But still, if educators were there, perhaps we could have done something about that. But so I see here that when you see that there is a time when children can merge together or come to a different area, that you send a bus, bring them here. And you have also mentioned a similar thing earlier about this environment allows people to walk around and go to places. And so what are your views on, I think I know the answer, but still, of different age group children coming together and in an environment and having an interaction or perhaps playing together at a time which works for them?
Well, that's a good question, and I'll focus on our OSH side of things, the outside school hours care area, because we initially had one building for all of our children from effectively, 3-4 year kindy up until 12 years old. And the interesting thing is that initially when we opened this center, we had like 5 kids. So in our long daycare environment, we were getting full, and we had to figure out what to do with these 5, OSH care kids, school age kids that kind of came into the kindy area, and they just kind of looked so out of place.
Yes.
And so we bought the property across the street, and we got approval for 10 children. We thought, well, that'll last us a long time. There just wasn't the demand for it. Yeah. Well, it grew like wildfire, just seeing the kids playing in the environment. And all of a sudden, within like 2 years, we were full and got a license for 43. And we were just bursting at the seams. So we thought, well, but we were struggling a little bit with some of the behavior because you had the more raucous 12-year-olds with the 3-year-olds. And we were struggling to find outdoor play equipment that suited both. Yeah. So what we did is we ended up buying the property next door, another, 2,000 square meters, and saying, hey, that's for the older kids, and building an environment that is more suitable to their development, and having the existing one more for the younger kids. That's kind of what we envisaged that to be for. But saying that, in the mornings, we have them all together on one property. In the afternoons, we separate them, but there are also times where we just open the gates and it's free.
Yeah.
So exactly. I think that it's good to combine them, to have, multi-age groups together. There's a lot of learning to be done by that, as opposed to saying, nope, you're this age, you're that age, and bam, that's it.
Yeah.
They love it when they can free flow between the 4,000 square meters. Yeah. And they have a ball. And, the most common thing we hear from the kids, Mom, you've come too early, go home.
If I was the mom,
come, Mom, go home. I'm tired. I want to play more. I'm like,
see, if I was the mom, I would say, I have come early on purpose. I'm not here for you. I'm just going to sit here and read the book. So you do your thing. I'll see you soon, buddy. I'll see you at 6 p.m. Let's just leave me alone. Okay. This is my time away from everything else. This is, there's something which you mentioned, and that hard work, attitude, and time is free. They are free. And but that's what we need to put in. And when you mentioned something about bringing children together in 2,000 square meter area, well, bringing children together in a small area is same as, because children do not know if the area was big or not. That's their mind running games with them. Peer interaction has been is considered to be so valuable. And as you said, there's a lot of learning. And in my research, when I'm as I keep studying more and more about outside school hour care, we see that when we interview children, in my own interviews with 600 minutes, I can say that the amount of time that they have mentioned staff interaction with them and things they have learned from children is tremendous. The learning, if we were to quote that as learning, is very much driven by educators' attitude and children interaction, peer interaction. It's a huge one. That's how I see it. And when you divide that into groups, that's fine. Some people do it because of the environmental challenges, staff members challenges, or maybe they just maybe there are things in their blind spot, they haven't yet seen it, and that's fine. That works for them, that's okay. But then there are benefits of at least once a day after 5 p.m. maybe, or after 4:30. And not to say after 5 p.m. means not 4:55. Hey, come on. If the kids are okay to play with each other at 4:55, we can't be looking at the clock. Because learning is not linear, and it just cannot be controlled, unfortunately. You just can't control learning.
Yeah,
you can guide it, but you can't control it.
It's funny you say that. I used to work somewhere, Sarah, and we weren't allowed to go on the play equipment till 4:30. Why? There was no reason. There was no one else there. There was nothing else happening. It was just a rule at the service that we don't go on the play equipment till 4:30. But what's wrong with 4:25? I actually got in trouble for going on there at about 4:25 once, and I couldn't understand it.
It's very structured. That's a very school-like thing, that you can't go home till 3 p.m. or something like that, you know. And you also mentioned something about attitude of the staff members and educators. And I want to ask you a question, but before that, just a quick one, where the leader's attitude. This is a leader here who has done community involvement with Kenya, age person exchange program. Oh, sorry, not age person's home, Kenyan exchange. We're not transferring age people from one. No, that was a big slip up, and I'm not going to edit it, letting you guys have it. In-depth transitioning programs. You also take them to library. He's a leader who does that, and a leader who thinks and then goes, okay, I need to buy this or do that or change that. That filters to your staff as well, would I say? Like, do you think that the staff members will also, because here's a common problem, common complaint I get. I do this, Saurabh, but my staff don't do it. Okay, I have this, I know, but they don't. And then that's where I come into picture. So how do you do that? What has worked for you and your team?
Look, I think what you'll find most of all is that our Pachamama staff own what we are. They own what we do. And because we listen to the staff, because we listen to the educators, and I say, look, starting right from, the top being the ownership, we can do anything. All right. What do you want to do? Let's make it work. Let's consider how we can do it. But I don't want just my ideas to go, this is how we're going to do it. Bam, 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 bam. I want the staff to own their ideas and own their concept and realize that, look, this isn't just a Kristen McPhail center. While I can start off the creativity, I want them to be able to use their creativity as well. And so they come up with all these programs. I mean, like, collecting things for the local Good Sammys, or raising money for community, food drop-offs. So and that makes, again, the staff more engaged, and that reflects in longevity of staff, which then reflects in all that we can do in children's behavior and rah, rah, rah. So I think, one of the most common things I hear is, you mean we can do that here? Like, of course. How are we going to do it? And when something goes wrong, when somebody makes a mistake, if you want to call it a mistake, we'll have a discussion, and I'll say, look, this is what happened. Let's learn from it, and let's just move on. There's no kind of shaming people unless they don't listen. Then I'll,
like, bring it on here.
Everything's a learning experience, and how can we make it better? How can we make it better?
This is really nice. When I wrote the word ownership, and then I wrote initiative underneath it. So
I
ownership.
wrote, we can do anything. That's what I wrote in my notes.
But the ownership and leadership and initiative. Now, so I would imagine that you will also have a good recruiting process, given that there's so much you have put in, that you choose your staff members in a way that, because you have put your heart and soul to this. Sometimes staff members can surprise you. Maybe you think that they will give this much, but they will give you way more, and the opposite is true too. So do you reckon that from the day you recruit to the day they kind of see themselves as the owner of their ideas and initiative, do you think that all works in cohesion? Is that what happens with your team?
I think getting back to environment, I largely, you will have some people who aren't going to thrive in our environment. You
Okay.
just will. We are not for everybody. You will have some families who our philosophy and our environment isn't going to suit, and that's just fine too. But, we try to provide an environment in which our staff can thrive and to own things and to use their creativity. And a lot of times, they come to us so kind of narrow-minded, and we can't do this and we can't do this and we can't do this. And it's funny because some of the best staff that we've had and that we have are those that we thought wouldn't work out. And I'm like, no. Yeah. I see something in this person. We'll talk, and I'll say, hey, to my center manager or to their manager, I'm like, no. Look, I really see an enormous amount. What I think is they need this, this, and this. Let's not give up on them. Remember so-and-so and how that went. They're like, oh, yeah. So we figure out what it is that they personally need in order to thrive. And it's not a cookie cutter. Everybody comes to us with certain schema that they have, largely based on their childhood, and we need to figure that out. What will make them thrive? And something that's said to me by staff members is, we're just not used to this support. We're just not used to this deep support. I'll give you an example. Our center manager, her grandfather was dying in England. She's from England. And she was struggling to come together with the airfare for it. And I just went, dear, here's the airfare, just go. You have to go, because if you don't, that's something that you will always deeply regret. And I know that she's a better employee now, having gone through that experience of literally saying goodbye to a loved one. She's a better rounded person and a better employee. And those are the things that we try to do to help staff on an individual basis.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if somebody thinks that, no, I can't do that, I want to repeat the words again. Hard work, attitude, and time is free. They are free. Yeah. This is not about just having or not having resources, but being resourceful is something which I hear. And there's a philosophy which drives it. And I'm learning so much. All I want to do is just come and have a look and read a book or just be there. And I
You're
hope
welcome
that.
To.
Oh yeah, I was really hoping for an invitation, so I'm glad that there is one.
You are welcome to visit at any time.
For the last hour, I was hinting it. I was hinting over and over again, like, hey, when would I do that? And and when we hear about these inspirational stories, it is just inspiring, because there's the difference between being motivated and inspired. Being motivated is how I see it, is a figment of your a figment of your imagination. Like, oh, I'm motivated, so you do something for like 2 days or maybe like a minute, and then you need that motivation, that stimulus again. But being inspired is something which is a bit more intrinsic. And I hope that those who are listening to this, what I'm coming out of that is, there's so much available. Maybe not in Australian currency for me right now, right? But maybe there's other things I can do or take away. Perhaps those tables you can take away. You may not put like the Iranian rug or Pakistani rug, as you mentioned, or the Indian vintage cupboard. Am I right? Yeah. But you may put something else. Absolutely. You may create something with the kid, Joe. But it's all about being one step ahead, because that's what I keep, maybe 5 steps ahead. I don't know. But, as I see that you had like 5 children, now that's an easy way to give up. Now you could have invested your money in different industry. Let's put it this way, like instead of saying, I've got 5 kids, let's buy another 2,000 meters square on the next one. You could have opened that for something else. And that's what happens. People expand. So let's say I have money, like I buy 3 houses, rent it out, blah, 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 like that. That's how people expand. So again, that's an attitude thing. At that moment, when we had 5 staff, 5 kids only, we bought, like the Kristen here bought something to expand. And then you had 10 and you thought, okay, that would be it. Then you became 43. So you say, okay, buy again. So you were like way ahead. So this is not just an accident. You created all of this and then things filled up. So it's like something we say, we give it a thought and then things manifest.
Yeah.
And so this is, we are talking after 8 years, but all the money which had, all the attitude was all focused on creating this.
Yeah.
Am I saying it right, Kristen? Do you
No.
reckon?
Yeah. Look,
Yeah.
you are, and that's absolutely true, you know, and it's a dedication and it's a mindset and it's being inspired to create something for the children. And look, and really genuinely, truly have the children first in mind. You know, that's what really genuinely, you know, there would be the first 3 or 4 years, we didn't take a salary, you know, nothing. Nothing. We took no money at all. And now we're receiving a salary, but we're not taking any dividend at all from the company. Every single dollar is being reinvested to make it a better and better place for the children and make it as amazing as we want it to be. And I just want to create this amazing legacy and show people that, you know, we can have very unique and very creative centers for the benefit of the children. And that's what, you know, we're all about here at Pachamama.
Well, it's also providing something different. So you mentioned not everyone will like or enjoy or fit into your service, but those people that won't like or fit into those other services. So it's like an alternative for people that would thrive more in your type of learning environment.
Exactly. And, you know, and it's not just the children. We probably have all up, I want to say maybe 500 children, 600 children who come here over the week. We have, you know, probably about 500 families, and we have 50 staff. So, you know, this one enterprise is touching the lives. Then you have the grandparents who come here to pick the children up. And, you know, so we're touching the lives of thousands and thousands of people in the community by this deep dedication of what has been 24/7. I'm slowing down now. I am going to, you know, slow down a little bit and enjoy it. But, you know, that's the power that small business has the potential to do, to really influence so many lives in such a positive way.
And internationally as well. You also mentioned that something which children do not know today will know in the future when they see certain things. Like, hey, I remember this. And leaving a legacy. This how Barbi and I say about this podcast is also just something like leaving a legacy, because we actually invest in this. We're not taking a salary out of podcast or something. There is no salary to take out. But this is us learning, and this is us leaving something behind, because there are so many people that we will never get in touch with face to face, and this is the way to leave this thing behind. But Kristen, I'm really inspired by what you said also about, you know, not taking salary for the first 4 years and still today investing every money into it. And that's what I want people to really get, that this is planned. This is not an accidental thing that you just walked in and, I inherited $1 billion, so I just opened up Pachamama. That never happened. It's not that. You could have done all these resources and money and time could have been given to someone. And this could not have manifested if they didn't have the right attitude and the willingness and the dedication. That's another thing I wrote down next to the time, attitude, mindset, hard work. This is what has been created because of that. So thank you very much. I learned so much. Barbi, anything do you want to add to it?
No, I love, well, like I said, I've been a long time follower. I urge everyone to go follow Pachamama on Facebook. That's where I follow them the most. I do notice one thing that was kind of throughout, like Saurabh, you picked up on attitude, but same with your philosophy. I feel like your philosophy genuinely is the grounds of everything else everyone does in your service, and getting everyone on board on that. And that's where it goes from there.
And I think that's where people should start. Sorry, Kristen, go on, please.
Yeah, look, I was going to say that we actually have open houses. We really want to share what we do with other educators and try to show them what we do and not just speak about it. And one of the things that I say is, look, this is our philosophy, right? This is ours. This is what we based our service on. Really create your own. Don't take ours. Don't, do this and this and this and this because Pachamama does it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about creating your own passion, and really what's deep inside of you, expressing that in your own center, because being genuine and being authentic to what your own goals are and philosophies are will shine through. And that's what I really encourage owners and senior managers to do, to create a philosophy that you want to implement. And that's how to create a great service. And then everything you do is based on, what does that philosophy say? How does this decision influence that philosophy? Does it fit with it? Is it consistent with it?
Exactly. And again, philosophy is also free.
Yeah.
I'm just writing down things which are free. I have a list of things now. We often say in this podcast that we would love to have you again, because we have had some really amazing speakers and we learned so much that why would we not? I think 8 years of Pachamama's journey cannot be stored in one podcast. So there's so much more we can do. But I was also thinking that maybe what we can also do is sometimes perhaps run the challenges which we have seen in OSH on the floor. And I know that you, before the podcast started, you were talking about you wanting to visit other services, or but you are so focused on doing what you're doing, and it takes 24/7 work. I can see that. Perhaps we can bring something to you and perhaps get your opinion on what you would have done, of what your attitude, what your philosophy, and what your mindset would have done in that case. It's like more like that would be great to have a panel of people. What do you think, Barbi? Like panel of people.
Yeah, especially.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, about to say, even if it's people with different diverse perspectives, because then you get, again, things like I'm pretty big on thinking certain people suit certain centers. Sorry, I can't even say that. Especially because we do recruitment. They might be a fantastic educator, but I'm like, no, they're not going to work well in that. So having everyone of different type of backgrounds, philosophies, personalities, then you get all different types of opinions, and hopefully something there will benefit someone listening, as always.
Exactly. And that's what we get as a feedback. We get people, as Kristen said earlier, that it surprises what the staff member could do. It surprises us what people get out of our podcast, because when we are running the podcast, we are so this is like 100% zoning in, and we are like listening for possible questions, and we're writing things down. So we sometimes miss the gist of what's going on. Like I do. I don't know about Barbi, but when I'm writing, sometimes I miss out what the speaker said. But those who are listening, they can listen to it a couple of times, and for them, they're getting a lot out of this. So, so thank you very much, Kristen, for helping us out, giving your valuable time. And again, I would like to say that it's a working day. What's the date? Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Friday working day. We had a technology issue, so Kristen had to wait for 20 minutes on the other side with nothing. So, but thanks for the patience, and thank you again, Barbi, for your continuous dedication. And if you, we would add Pachamama's activity center Facebook page.
I'll put that in.
Link to that when we are releasing this. They already had 150K likes, so I'm not sure what we're gonna do. But people can start learning from them. And I hope that those who are in your page can also listen to this and see that, because those who are using the service today, they may not know what had happened in the past when we had only 5 kids and 10 and 15 and then all those 200 kids now. And the way you can support us is through following and liking our pages. We have Firefly HR, which is Barbi is the co-founder of it with James, her husband. Firefly HR looks after recruiting right people for right places.
Yeah.
Did I say it right?
Oh, we don't even have we keep changing our tagline.
Yeah, well,
I guess we're always reflecting. So.
Yes, that's good. So
that
for currently as it is.
Right people for right places. That sounds good.
And I didn't even know that was that. And the right time, because you could find the right person, but it's like too late now. So right timing, right place, right people, right? So you can follow the page on Facebook, Firefly HR OSH, Instagram, Firefly HR OSH, LinkedIn, Firefly HR OSH, is it? I guess something
probably,
like that.
Something
and
like that.
just like the page, We Belong Education. It is also on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, our OSH After the Bell podcast page on Facebook, and now we have it on YouTube as well. It's for those who do not have Spotify and want us to see struggling with our dogs or with our cameras every now and then on YouTube. So, Kristen, any other final words you have for our listeners?
Look, I just encourage you to follow your passion, really, to dig deep inside and figure out what it is that you want to do to leave a legacy, if that's what you want to do, and to give it everything you have. And it doesn't have to cost money. It can be, you can, sweat capital. They say sweat capital for a reason, and it can get quite sweaty. But look, create what you want, and to help change the children's lives for the better, because they are our future. So thank you so much for having me on your program, and you guys are doing great work yourself. So
thank you. Thank you, Kristen McPhail from Pachamama Activity Center. Follow your passion and give it everything you have. Kristen McPhail, 2021. Look after yourself, people. From OSH After the Bell podcast, it's a goodbye. See ya.
See you later. Bye-bye.